Electric cars are in vogue. Companies like Tesla are pushing the boundaries on what's possible. Welcome to Energy Story. Today we're talking about the history of electric cars and some of the interesting stories that you may not have heard of. In the early 1800s, inventors across the world were really starting to tame electricity and understand its properties. Indeed, they were developing the first motors. Contraptions were being designed and built, but it's not really until probably 1884 that the first electric car was seen. This was probably built by Thomas Parker in London. This is an important date because it's a full 2 years before Carl Benz presented his Motorwagen to the German public in Mannheim in 1886. Many more electric cars were built throughout the decades towards the end of the 1800s. And in New York in 1900, there were around 2,300 cars operating in the city. 800 of those were battery powered alone. Only 400 were actually internal combustion engines, and the rest were all steam, which is unsurprising for the time. One of the most famous owners of an electric car was probably Thomas Edison. He was developing batteries, and he had a keen interest in developing this. He was also really good friends with a certain Henry Ford, so much so that they were actually neighbours. Henry Ford released his famous Model T in 1908. But in 1914, the press was really buzzing with a new development. It was rumoured that Thomas Edison and Henry Ford were developing a cheap electric car. This never came to fruition, unfortunately. Probably for a number of reasons. There were lots of conspiracy theories, but probably just because the battery technologies weren't good enough at the time. They leaked, they didn't hold their charge, and they ran down pretty quickly. The rest of the 20th century, as we all know, was won by the internal combustion engine. The technology improved over time, efficiency improved, and the technology developed incredibly quickly. It enabled cheap transportation for the masses, personal transportation for the masses, and revolutionised the way people travelled. It's not until the end of the 20th century that electric cars started to come back in. There are a few notable exceptions, things like... It's not until the end of the 20th century that electric cars started to make a bit of a comeback. There are a few notable exceptions, things like golf buggies and milk floats, but it was in 1996 that General Motors released their EV1 car, Toyota released the RAV4 EV, and the most famous battery-powered car, the Prius, which was just a hybrid car, came in circulation. It didn't get anywhere outside of Japan until 2000 and didn't become a plug-in car until 2012. In 2008, a new brand appeared on the market called Tesla. It released its Roadster, an expensive sports car that was completely electric. This brand went from strength to strength under the guidance of Elon Musk, who first released the Model S, then Model X, and now the Model 3. The Model 3 has had over 400,000 pre-orders. This clearly shows that there's demand for electric vehicles. Incumbents, for example BMW, are really reacting to this. BMW have said that they wanted to sell at least 100,000 electric cars in 2017, all plug-in variants. Volvo have announced that they will only sell plug-in variants or fully electric vehicles from 2019. Further afield, other manufacturers are really starting to step up their development. And in an homage to both their founder, as well as a bit of a dig at Tesla, the Ford Motor Company have just announced that they are taking forward their development into electric vehicles under a new team. And that team is called the Edison team. All of this, coupled with clear political will to start to phase out the production of internal combustion cars, with countries looking to phase them out by around 2040, means that the future for electric vehicles is bright. We'll cover a lot more of this in a lot more detail in other stories on energystory.org. Please do visit the website to find some of the links and stories and a really interesting set of photos on the Mashable website that you can go and visit. Thanks. Please do visit the website, add your comment below, get in touch in terms of questions or suggestions you have for future stories, and until next time, thanks very much.